Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. Hot on the heels of yesterday's video looking at Neca's Nosferatu figure, I thought I'd follow up with another long overdue video taking a closer look at Neca's classic Dracula, and by that of course I do mean the Universal Monsters line, the Bela Lugosi Dracula. And such is Bela Lugosi's lasting legacy that even today, almost 100 years on, his portrayal of Dracula is still seen as the definitive version of the character. So let's dive straight in there and take a look at this packaging. Now, of course, it is Neca's standard box packaging, and it is a gatefold cover. Now, on the front of the cover, we have the classic poster from the Dracula movie from 1932. Pretty impressive stuff. This looks really cool. It actually looks quite striking. Obviously, it's quite different to the kind of movie posters we get these days, but this is obviously hand illustrated and it looks really cool. And they have an interesting font that they've chosen for the logo of Dracula there, but it is up front and centre. This is quite colourful. It's quite displayable, obviously, and it is a bit of movie memorabilia in its own right. Looking at the side panels, we can see two alternative photographs that have been taken by Neca of the figure in action, reflecting two very different styles, two very different atmospheres of this character, showing off some of his various different looks, which is one of the key things that's really impressive about this figure, and we'll get into that a little bit later on. But we have two very different looks here that you can put on display, and then finally we have the reverse, the packaging, and I love this. I love this sort of montage of photos that are taken of the action figure, utilising some of the different looks and different accessories that the figure comes with. I think this looks really cool. This is a really nice collage. It's very, very displayable in its own right, and I think this looks absolutely fantastic. And of course, it is largely text-free as well, so this is very, very nicely done. Of course, the front cover is velcro down. When we open that up, we have on the right hand side the window display showing off the figure and his various accessories, and then on the left hand side we have another fantastic portrait, another photo taken by Neca with a really stylized background showing the figure off in a very atmospheric pose, and this looks absolutely fantastic. The interior inlay card that the figure is housed in front of actually is a nice image. I think this is staged. I don't think this is actually taken from the film at all. This seems to have been recreated by Neca to show Dracula's coffin in the basement of Castle Dracula, and this looks very cool. It's a nice little diorama piece that you could stand the figure in front of if you so wished. I was super excited to open this figure up, and I have to say he did not disappoint at all. Everything is pretty much on point with this figure. Spoilers, I think this is absolutely fantastic. Start off by taking a look at this head sculpt, and I have to say they've done a pretty fantastic job here of capturing the likeness of Bela Lugosi. We actually have three different heads to choose from, which we'll take a look at later, but all of them have really well caught that likeness. I think they've done a fantastic job of bringing this to life. Of course, this is in colour. There is a black and white version of the figure as well, but I think they've done a really nice job here imagining what the actual colour palette would be, and I actually prefer that because I think it brings the figure to life, and I think this looks really, really cool. I particularly like the paint washes, particularly around the eyes there, really getting some of the detail there, some of the depth and texture. This looks absolutely fantastic to my eyes. The fantastic detailing and sculpting runs through the entire figure, and with a character like Dracula, there's an awful lot to draw on here because of course he has a really nice outfit that has a lot of these lovely little details. So whether it's the cravat, the little medallion that he wears, whether it's the chains on his waistcoat or handkerchief in his upper pocket, there's just so much to look at here, and there's a number of different paint washes running through it to just give it a little bit of depth and texture to distinguish each of the different types of materials. There's a difference between the look of his tailcoat versus the texture of the material that's been used for his trousers. This looks absolutely fantastic. And they've even managed to capture little details like the ring on his hands there. The hand itself actually nicely sculpted with the veins running through it, and of course the individual fingers is a nice touch, and there's even some individual paint apps on that ring itself, which is quite cool. In terms of the legs and the shoes, there's not an awful lot to write home about here, but you can see through the lighting there some of the different washes that are running through the trousers there to make them look more authentic, and of course the gloss of the plastic of the shoes contrasting nicely against them. So all in all, a very nice presentation. Looking at the articulation then, there is a ball joint both in the top of the neck and the bottom of the neck that allows the head to turn all the way around, and of course lean left and right as well. Pretty fantastic range of motion here. The head will also bend forwards a decent distance, and it will kind of go back. The head can look up a little bit, but the neck itself can't actually go back that far. Now there's ball joints in the shoulders that allow the arms to lift up and out, and then there is a pin swivel at the elbow, allowing that lower forearm to spin all the way around and hinge to about 90 degrees more or less. I would have preferred a double joint at the elbow here, but I suppose for the aesthetic this works probably better in truth. Then we have a pin swivel at the wrist, allowing that hand to rotate all the way around, and of course it will also hinge forwards and backwards as well. Now I think there is a ball joint in the torso here somewhere. It's kind of hard to see and get access to. You definitely can spin from side to side, which is really good. When it comes to bending forwards and backwards, there's a tiny little bit of give here, but not an awful lot in truth. There are ball joints in the thighs though, allowing the leg to kick out to the side. They'll kick forwards and they'll go back a little bit. Now there is another pin swivel at the knee here, allowing that lower leg to again hinge to about 90 degrees and then swivel from side to side. And then finally we have an ankle pivot, allowing that foot to hinge forwards and backwards and pivot from side to side. And Dracula is fully loaded because it comes with an absolute jet load of accessories, including an additional 3 hands, 2 alternate heads, a candlestick, a serving tray with 2 wine goblets, a bottle of wine, and of course his cape. And I have to say, I absolutely adore this cape. Neca have been very generous with the amount of material that they've given us here, so that when you fold it out at full width like this, it has a huge wingspan. And pleasingly, when you drop it, you can wrap it all the way around and just the way it should. And this is really, really cool. Now, if you've watched my videos before, you'll know I'm a big fan of having actually cloth on my action figures. And I just think it gives it that extra depth, that extra texture, that just makes it a lot more appealing. And of course, when you talk about characters with capes, having that flexibility is just really, really cool, and it just allows you to create so many more different dynamic kind of poses for your displays. So I'm a huge fan of this. I think they've done an absolutely fantastic job, and also the material is quite thick, but it is still very silky as well, which is absolutely fantastic. It's also worth noting that the goblets actually have the wine inside as well, the way that's been painted in, which I think is a really cool, nice touch. That's actually not all, because we also get this giant vampire bat that Dracula transforms into, which is very cool, and it actually comes on a transparent stick as well that you can plug it into, so it actually looks like it's hovering in midair. And there's actually some nice detailing on this, and actually, you know, there's some paint washes running through it as well, which is pretty cool and unexpected, and I think they've done a good job with this one. As you can see, when it's fully mounted, you can stand this, and it stands actually just slightly above Dracula himself, which is kind of cool, and there's some fun displays you could probably do using both these pieces together. And that is really just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to the amount and the range of different poses and looks you can create for this character. Between the different heads, the different hands, and all these fantastic accessories, you can create all sorts of different tones, styles, atmospheres, and looks for this figure. So it's very versatile, and it has an awful lot to offer. This is a pretty fantastic figure all round, and it scores highly on pretty much every metric that I can think of, really, no matter whether it's just the overall presentation, the articulation, and the accessories. It's all top notch, and I think Neca have done a really great job with this. I love having this figure on display. For me, if you're looking between this figure and comparing it to, say, the Nosferatu, which is a nice figure, that's just like night and day, really. This is far superior in my opinion. This is an excellent figure, and probably one of the best Draculas in my collection. I love this. I think this is a fantastic figure. If you enjoyed this video, please do give it a like, and remember to subscribe, as there'll be plenty more videos soon.